Okay, so first we're going to talk about ribs. For the ribs for practicum, we're going to do unilateral. We're doing unilateral because that's where we know which way to rotate in order to flatten those ribs out. In the real world, a lot of times you're going to do bilateral. So we leave it open side to side to see both sides of the ribs, and then we do an RPO and an LPO, or an RAO and an LAO. But that doesn't help you understand which oblique shows us what. So for practicum, we're going to do unilateral depending on where our patient's pain is, okay? For lower ribs, we only have posterior lower ribs. There are no anterior lower ribs. So lower ribs are expiration, and that's only gonna be on the posterior. On the anterior, we only have upper, and with that, we're going to do the pain against the board initially for a PA, and then for our oblique, we bring the pain away. So if it's a left pain, we're going to do an RAO. If it's right-sided anterior pain, we're gonna do an LAO, okay? For the posterior, we do an AP to get that pain against the board, so we're minimizing OID, and then we're going to do against the pain. So if the pain's on the right, RPO, if the pain's on the left, LPO, okay? So I have a 14x17 image receptor in there. My light field right now is open 14x17. I'm gonna pull that marker off. And I'm having my patient put his back against the board for me, please. And for now, we're going to say that it's right posterior upper pain, okay? So I'm gonna have him come a little bit to the left, a little more. And I'm gonna bring this up. So if it's upper pain, we want the top of our image receptor about 1.5 inches above the shoulder, okay? So right about there, in my little blank spot, I can throw a right marker. And collimation, we're going to leave it open the 17 top to bottom, but we're gonna bring it in side to side. So that is going to be dependent on your patient. So what we wanna make sure we have is at least the jugular notch so that we're seeing mid-sternum, okay? And then we wanna see some light coming across the side right there. So 17 top to bottom, and on him, I have it a little less than 12 side to side, but if you have someone skinnier, you're gonna go even smaller side to side, okay? This would be the AP. So again, top of my image receptor, 1.5 inches above, and I'm collimated side to side. I'm shielding with the rolling shield, and since it's upper, it's gonna be deep breath in and hold, okay? So that's the AP. Now for right upper posterior pain, I'm going to do a RPO. So it's a 45-degree oblique, so I'm gonna have him turn halfway this direction. And with this, we wanna make sure that this inner arm comes out so that it does not end up in the rib shadow, okay? So just like that, I'm gonna have you come just here that way. And then when we oblique, it causes a little bit of distortion of the light field. You shouldn't need to change your collimation. Whatever collimation you used on the AP, when we oblique, it's still enough, okay? So you can see here, we're seeing some more light here, but with that obliquity, it's going to come through. We still, if I move his shirt, have light coming on the side here. Deep breath in and hold, okay? So you can go ahead and relax, put your back against the board. Now we're going to do lower posterior pain. So with this, I'm going to find the top of his crest, which is right here. When you guys are feeling for the crest, make sure you're feeling on the most lateral side of your patient, okay? Especially on thinner patients. Your crest technically goes from the ACES up and around. We wanna find that highest point of the crest, which is going to be on the actual side of our patient. I noticed a lot of people push too anterior on this last practicum. So make sure when you're feeling for the crest, you go to the outer side, okay? So bottom of my IR is at the crest. So I'm gonna bring this down right there. I know my marker will still be in my light because when you line up, that marker is going to follow it, okay? And then my shield is still here. And now with this, blow your air out and hold it out, okay? So that brings the diaphragm up, and now we're getting good exposure of all those lower ribs within that abdominal density. Okay, so then the oblique for this is the same. So 45 degrees to the side. Perfect, and then come back a little bit, right about there. Arm up, blow your air out, hold it out. And that is the lower posterior ribs. Good on that? So that is, I'm not gonna show you the left side. It would be the same concept, but on the other side. But let's move to PA. So for PA, I'm gonna have my patient face the board. Don't trip over that. And we know we only have upper anterior ribs, so we're gonna say it's upper left anterior pain, okay? So my tube's gonna come up, and I'm gonna come up here. Go ahead and have my patient put his chest all the way to the board, and then step to the right for me. I'll make sure you don't trip. Keep going. Right there. Right there. So we wanna make sure we have light on the spine, okay, so that we know we're seeing all of that medial portion of the rib. And then I have light here on the medial, or on the lateral side. I went a little high. I'm gonna come down here, line back up. So again, inch and a half above the shoulders, okay? And when we're talking shoulders, we need to make sure we have light coming up at least to C7, right? Because T1 has that first rib on it. So we can feel for that vertebral prominence. I have light on that vertebral prominence, so we know we're going to see all of our upper ribs, okay? And then we can have our patient roll their shoulders forward, and that helps get the scapula out of the way. And then we would have him take a deep breath in and hold. And this is a PA, upper anterior rib pain, okay? Then with the next picture for this, we would oblique, since it is left pain and my patient is in a PA position, we're going to bring that pain away. So we're gonna go into an RAO. So 45 degrees this way, and this arm's gonna come up on top of the bucky. Bring it up even, bend your elbow. There you go. So that we're getting that arm out of the way of the oblique, okay? Now my light field looks a little funkier because he has more OID, and so he's closer to the collimator, right? So we're still not going to change our collimation because that beam diverges as it goes through. So my collimation was good on the PA. We don't need to open it up anymore for the oblique, okay? So I'm still gonna be centered halfway between his spine and the outer side, just like that. My marker's still good there. And deep breath in and hold. So 45-degree oblique, and we rotate the pain away from the image receptor, okay? Make sense? Okay. So that is all of the rib positions. Obviously, if it's right-sided pain, you would do an LAO, and same thing with the posterior pain, you would do the opposite oblique, okay? I do want to go ahead and show you guys the sternum real quick. And for the ribs, everything's at 40 inches. In the real world, a lot of techs will do them at 60 inches just because you get a little more anatomy in the picture. And a lot of places want to see the upper and the lower in its entirety. So in the real world, you may see a little bit of a different model than what the book teaches us. So for sternum, we're going to switch to a 10 by 12. Put that in lengthwise because we want to be top to bottom. Change my collimation, 10 side to side, 12 top to bottom. That's as big as we're going to go, okay? So for this, my patient is going to start with his chest against the board. And my angulation for the REO sternum is 15 to 20, okay? For a smaller chested person, we're gonna go at the 20 degrees. For a large chested person, we're gonna go closer to 15. You know, and that's just kind of eyeballing it. We're not gonna do exact. So again, bring your left hand up here on top of the image receptor. And then we're just, we'll actually put it back down, sorry. We're gonna go to the height of T7 because we wanna be mid-sternum, okay? So find the bottom scapular angle, inferior scapular angle, I am there. So now you can bring your arm back up. And then we're rotating that 15 to 20 degrees, so it's just that baby bit. It's not a whole lot. Find his spine and center 1 inch to the left of that. So right about there. He's at about 15 to 20. I'm going to collimate side to side as well, because our sternum is just a couple inches wide, okay? So that is down to 5 inches side to side. And then we can stick our marker here in the upper corner of the light field on the patient, or I could have him move and stick it to the bucky, either one, okay? It's probably more secure on the bucky. But with this, my breathing instruction is gonna be slow, deep breath in and out through a straw, because we wanna blur the ribs and allow the heart to beat a couple of times so that we're seeing just the sternum. But make sure your patient knows that it's gonna be slow, deep breaths in and out. That way they're not moving and then moving the sternum, okay? So 15 to 20 degrees, right here, arm up so it's out of the way. His spine is here, and I'm centered about an inch to the left of the spine. So actually, this way a little bit. Spine is here, centered about an inch to the left, okay? That's the RAO. Our second view is the lateral. He's gonna face the left for me, and I go out to 72 inches. So for sternum, we're at 72 for the lateral. Oops. Make sure you adjust your collimation to be on that 72-inch line, right? So 12 top to bottom, 10 side to side. Have him lock his arms behind his back. And then we are centering on the sternum itself. So I'm actually gonna come up a little bit. So still mid-sternum, right about there. And again, collimate side to side. We don't need it open that big. And throw a left marker. Whoops. Right about there. And as you can see, I'm centering where I'm just going through that front of the chest, okay? And with this one, we want to take a deep breath in and hold. So that is the centering for that one.